Hi there, Tyler back here with the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast, talking about 3 shows this last weekend. We had Thursday at the Nightshop in Bloomington, Friday at a place called Eddie's up in Elgin, and Saturday we played in Bartonville at a place called Marshall's Tap. So, best show of the weekend was probably our first show, Thursday. It was a cool 45-minute set, which, are a lot easier to get through than 3 or 4 hours. And we didn't have to bring our own sound system, which was good. And we split the bill, did mostly originals. I mean, I sang all originals. Laura Lynn did some covers. It was me, Lo, and Dave. And we played with a couple groups. We played with Eric Paul and Miss Christine, who are both great. I didn't really listen to a lot of their music going into it, but, watching them perform, they were both just really different, but as far as from each other, but they accented each other very well. And so the girl, Miss Christine, she played bass to Eric's songs and her songs, and Eric played, lead guitar and to both their songs. But they did it kind of a strange way. They did, like, they're 2 separate artists that play in a band together, so they would do Eric Paul's stuff separate from Miss Christine. So Miss Christine played first, and then Eric Paul played second, and then, but it was all within the same group. They had a drummer as well, and they just kind of alternated, like, sets pretty much. So I don't know. It was definitely a good show, and like I said, Miss Christine and Eric were both very good. Good singers, good players. The bass lines Miss Christine was doing were super cool, and Eric Paul was he was kind of a shredder. He could definitely play the guitar. And then we played first, they played second, and then Norobot played last, which Dave, our conga player, used to be in a band with those guys, but and I've heard about them forever, since probably at least 5 years I've known of them, and they've probably been around even longer, so it was cool to finally get to see them play, and they were, definitely on point. They did some cool stuff, definitely a little jammier than the rest, but still kind of bluesy, which kind of lined up with Eric Paul and Miss Christine, but so we were kind of the odd ones out as far as the genre goes, but it sounded pretty good, and we had a good time, and, after playing there at the beginning of the month, and I was really sick, and I just, could not sing at all, so it was really nice to end up and have a good show there, so leave a good taste in my mouth for that place. But, again, overall show, it was cool because we did our 45-minute set, and, we were kind of just done for the night. We just hung out the rest of the night, and usually that's not the case. Usually we're just on stage all night, so there's not really a lot of hanging out that goes on. But, so it was nice just to kind of catch up with everybody, and with not having to bring our own sound system, we didn't have a lot of stuff to load out at the end of the night, so there was really, after we got done playing, just no stress at all. So then our second show was at a place called Eddie's up in Elgin. This was our first time at this place, so it's always a little iffy going in. You never really know what to expect, and this was definitely one of those that I expected it to be way different than it was. The same guy that books our Kilkenny's Davenport shows booked this show, so I don't know why I was expecting it to be kind of similar place, but it was not even remotely the same. It was very, very small, which, sometimes they're fun, and it's easy to sound good if you don't bring a lot of sound gear, but I brought a lot just because I had it in my car and wasn't sure what to expect, so I ended up, and I didn't do the foot drums because it was so tiny, and we got there, and they were saying, we had to wait till 7:30 to set up to try to start by 8, which, it was a little stressful, but I just really minimized the amount of things that we used, and this was just Lo and myself, so we didn't take up a lot of room. But yeah, so it was 2 hours away. So this was a long drive to get there. And I was in a fairly good mood, I think, from the night before. But then, as the night went on, I kind of left, that good mood kind of left me a little bit. Because I kept having some gear issues, which I still haven't quite figured out why. But my mains were, like, going in and out. Like, sometimes they just weren't working at all. I think I just had a bad cable somewhere. But, so that was definitely annoying. Especially because we only had, like, one speaker, essentially. But that one, the main, that... So we could hear ourselves, and we thought it would sound fine, and then we'd turn our monitors down to see if the main was, how it sounded, and sometimes it was just off. But the power was on, and it was plugged in and everything, so I had to change out that a few times. So that was a little bit annoying, but the crowd was good. I mean, they seemed to really like what we were doing. There were a couple ladies that kind of, I don't know, it was just left a bad taste in my mouth. They stayed the whole night, seemed like they sang along to a lot of the songs, and seemed to be into it, and they were requesting stuff, off our list of covers that we do. It seemed like they had seen that we were coming and maybe saw that, or they just saw what we were doing and thought we sounded similar to, because they requested Mumford & Sons and Lumineers, and those are definitely on our list as far as some of the bands we cover. And they seemed pretty interactive and into it, but then at the end of the night, we were, cleaning out our tip jar, and there was a little note written in there on one of our download cards, which, not that they're super expensive, but the download cards aren't really, it's kind of a ruined card at that point because there's writing all over it and stuff, and obviously they didn't want to take the card. Not that they necessarily understood what it was, but anyway, just telling us what different bands we should cover. They recommended Train and Ed Sheeran, which, I mean, I don't hate either of those groups or anything, but I'm not a huge fan of either. I think they're both talented musicians. I just don't really like their music that much, I guess. And then they made a comment about Laura Lynn, who was, she wasn't feeling very good for this whole show. So it was a rough night for her already, but then they did say that she had excellent vocals, but they said that she should open her eyes more when she sings, which, it's kind of silly, because she was just trying to get through the night. And then for me, they said that my range wasn't good or something like that. So, I don't know. Everybody else there just gave us compliments and said nice things, but it's really hard to kind of look past. I can't get past those negative things. This is frustrating, and it's just weird. If they didn't like the show, then they should have just left, I don't know why they stuck around the whole time to give us their 2 cents about our set. I wasn't really playing a wide spectrum of music or anything, but I was playing to the crowd. When you're playing 3 hours and, you see a lot of older people, I'm doing a lot of old school stuff, so maybe that's what they were talking about. I know that I shouldn't care at all, but it's just what was the point of that? I don't know what goes on in the minds of people who do stuff. It's like leaving a negative comment on a YouTube video. It's what was the point of that? Just don't listen to it. But anyway, so that left a bad taste in my mouth, like I said. And it was just a weird show all around. I hope that the staff and stuff liked us, so that way we can go back and maybe I'll know what to expect, and those people won't be there, and it'll just be a good night. But anyway, so then Saturday night was Marshall's in Bartonville, which we had played there before, and it was a pretty good show the time before. A buddy of mine came with me, which he's kind of a critical. He's like a music snob a little bit. Not in that he's pretty open to, just with me, I feel like if I send him, because he kind of grew up and started playing guitar at the same time as I did, and he was always the better singer. So he's like pretty much like super critical of all my stuff all the time, which is good. It's good to have somebody who's honest and like, you know, just open about what he thinks about stuff, and he's not gonna sugarcoat it. And because most people, when you show them something, they're like, "Yeah, that was good," and they don't really care one way or the other. They aren't going to give you any really honest feedback. So he does do that, but sometimes he's a little bit harsh. So, and I mean, I know that that's just the way he is, so I know what to expect. But when playing a live show, and he hasn't seen us perform in like probably 7 years, it was just put me on edge just a little extra, because it was like I wanted him to think that we sound good, and that was in my head all night, because I was trying to prove what we were doing, to him. But and you get that pretty much any time you play, like for a bunch of old friends, or you're at a hometown bar, and you're trying to show people that what you're doing is legit. So you overthink everything, which is just a weird thing that I don't know that gets talked about that much, but I don't know, especially for me, because I feel like I wasn't very, very good in high school, and a lot of people remember me that way. So, when I'm a lot better now, so it's like I'm trying to show everybody that I'm a lot better, but then it's like sometimes you get so focused on that, you can't be as in the moment, which, takes away from the overall performance. But anyway, that night it started good sound-wise. We were pretty quiet, and the bar got really loud, and then you couldn't hear us very good, so I kept having to turn up and having little feedback issues. Couldn't really grab the bar, even though I thought it sounded pretty good. We had a couple runs at the end where we got some people dancing and stuff, and there were some people paying attention that were pretty impressed with the foot drums I was doing and stuff, so that was cool. It just wasn't quite as good, I think, as the first time we played there. There was a couple people that were there the first time that really got the people moving, so we didn't really have that this time. But anyway, so that's kind of the general shows of this last weekend. Next week we have just 2 shows, so it'll be the first week in 2 weeks that we only have 2 instead of 3. We ended up in 3 out of the, I think, 5 weekends. Had 3 shows this last weekend, so it'll be a little bit nice getting back to like the normal, and maybe my voice will actually have some recovery. But because it's there. It's a lot more there than it was at the beginning of the month, but it's still pretty froggy. And I can mostly get it to cooperate for shows, but it just has more limitations than it had. So, but next week we're doing Dr. McKay's, which is like one of our hometown spots. And I think since Blair isn't going to be playing that with us, I think Dave's going to end up and come. So it'll be me, Lo, and Dave. And then Saturday we're at PK's, which is a little weird because Blair played there last weekend. I don't really know if he was telling them that he wasn't playing with us anymore, or it was like a birthday party, and we booked it a long time ago. Or he booked it a long time ago. It was when me and him played at PK's, and the owner of PK's asked if we could play that weekend, and I had a show already booked, so I said no, but Blair was like, I'll do that show solo, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. That'll be best for both of us, and then, it's just like a weird dynamic now that he's not really going to be playing with us anymore, because he played there. He probably booked some more solo shows there, I would guess, and then we're going to be playing there a lot too. So there's going to be a lot of weekends probably where it goes Blair plays the week before, we play the next weekend. It's like but he's not really with the Unemployed Architects, but I think a lot of people will think of him as being in the Unemployed Architects. So it's just like we're going to be collectively playing there a lot. So it's kind of a weird setup there, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure people will kind of get the picture after a little while that it's not really the same thing anymore. And, I'm sure he'll do fine by himself, and people will like that. And the people that enjoy his stuff more than mine will probably end up and go to see him solo. And then the people that like my stuff more will probably come to see me or me and Lo at PK's. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I'll be talking about how that goes this next week. I'm pretty excited. I just got a new kick drum for my foot percussion because my kick drum was pretty beat up. I was missing a lug nut, and I'd mentioned before that the foot pedal was held together by zip ties, so that wasn't exactly the most ideal. So I'm excited. It was a company called Sidekick Drums. It's a 22-inch double-sided, 6 inches deep, so it's a little thinner, I think, than my other one, but a little bit wider. So I'll be interested to see how it sounds, and it definitely looks a lot nicer, so that'll definitely be cool. So I'll be probably talking about that too next week. Anyway, thanks for anybody that listened, and have a good rest of your week.